Defining your leadership brand requires you to define 3 distinct characteristics of you: your leadership values, competencies, and mission. Your leadership values, competencies, and mission are the what, how, and why of your leadership. By following the steps outlined in this presentation, your leadership brand should evolve from a vague idea about your strengths into a comprehensive understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and how you will achieve your leadership goals. Who you are as a leader can be summed up in this circle diagram. Let's start with your leadership values, the outermost ring. Leadership values are those distinguishing features with which one wants to be known as a leader. Leadership values are simply what you stand for. Your personal values are a central part of who you are and what you want to be. By becoming more aware of these important factors in your life, you can use them to guide your leadership. Much of your influence is really about what you value most. As we move inward in our circle diagram, we come across your leadership competencies. These competencies are the how of your leadership. Competencies are observable behaviors that encompass the knowledge, skills, and abilities that distinguish your leadership. How you lead is what makes you special. It sets you apart from others. Competencies are born out of our strengths. They are the skills we excel at, the abilities we bring to the table. These are your leadership competencies. There are 5 simple clues to your leadership competency that you should be aware of. First, yearnings. Yearnings can be described as an initial force, an almost magnetic attraction that leads an individual to a particular activity or environment time and time again. A yearning is when you say to yourself, "I'd like to do that," or "I'd like to try that." Rapid learning reveals competency. The speed at which a person anticipates the steps of an activity, acquires a new skill, or gains knowledge is a telltale clue to a competency's presence or power. The dominant feeling here is, "I feel like I've always known how to do this." Next is flow, sometimes referred to as timelessness, and can serve as a clue to your competency. This happens when a person becomes so engrossed in an activity that he or she loses track of time. It may occur because you're so actively engaged in a deep and natural level. Next is excellence. Glimpses of excellence are observable flashes of outstanding performance. Those who intentionally study success can pinpoint to these inspiring moments. At these times, the task at hand has tapped and displayed a person's leadership competency. And finally, satisfaction is felt during experiences where the rewards were great. Typically, these are activities that you get a kick out of doing. Satisfaction is not merely a momentary pleasure, it forms a person's intrinsic motivation. So remember, leadership competencies are the how of your leadership. Competencies are observable behaviors that encompass the knowledge, skills, and abilities that distinguish your leadership. Using the exploration of observable behavior of your strengths from activities that you encounter as a leader, let's craft clear and concise and captivating leadership competency statements with these 3 guidelines for competency definitions. Again, we're going to follow just 3 simple steps when creating our competency definitions. First, we're going to identify and develop between 1 and 3 competency definitions for ourselves. These definitions should be unambiguous and specific. And finally, these definitions specify what, using an action verb, and why, defining an outcome of our leadership competency. So we're going to use 3 simple steps to create those competency statements. Step 1, create a STEM. The STEM identifies the context of your leadership competency. Think about the STEM as preparing your audience to know what to expect from you. STEM examples might include the ability to, the willingness to, or in order to. Step 2, define the what. Add an action verb to identify the action to take place. When selecting an action verb, make sure you're describing an observable behavior. To define the what of your competency, use this action verb with necessary descriptors. Remember, use words or phrases that reflect observable actions, behaviors, and demonstrate your leadership that others can see. Here's an example. Let's say your observable behavior is active listening. Your what, stem, and action verb might look something like in order to engage others. In order to being the stem and engage others being the what, with an action verb and the necessary phrases for transition. Finally, step 3, define the why. Once you have a stem and an observable behavior verb to address the what of your leadership competency, define the why or the result. To develop the result, consider 2 questions. What do you want to do as a result of your competency, and why does it matter? Use your response to these questions to close your leadership competency statement. Let's expand on our original example with a stem of in order to and a what of engage others, to include in order to engage others to make people feel heard. When describing observable behaviors, it will become tempting to use words like know, understand, or appreciate. These words describe an action, but others cannot see that action. Instead, think of words or phrases that reflect observable actions, behaviors that demonstrate your leadership that others can see. So here's our example using a model that helps us develop great leadership competency definitions. First, we start with an observable behavior. Let's say it's active listening, as we've used in our previous example. Then we create our competency definition in 3 steps: our stem, our what or action, and our why, which is a result. The stem in order to, with a what, engage others, and finally a why to make people feel heard. So with our observable behavior, we now have a competency definition of in order to engage others to make people feel heard. The core of our model is your leadership mission. It's why your leadership matters. Your leadership mission is a purpose, a cause, a belief. Your mission is the why of your leadership. By developing your leadership mission statement, you're informing an action plan for how your leadership will look and develop through your life. The value of a leadership mission is fairly simple. It forces you to think deeply about your leadership. It forces you to clarify and express your purpose. It imprints what's really important about your leadership, and it defines your leadership as part of you rather than something you think of occasionally. The value of leadership mission statements are simple. It defines why your leadership matters. So why does your leadership matter? Your job in crafting a leadership mission statement is to answer this question with a simple and abundantly clear statement. There are 3 simple elements to a great leadership mission statement. 1. A leadership mission is no more than 1 sentence long. 2. It should be understood by a 12-year-old. And 3. You should be able to recite it by memory. The truth is, great leaders throughout history have had simple 1-sentence mission statements. Abraham Lincoln's mission was to preserve the Union. FDR's mission was to end the Depression. Nelson Mandela's mission was to end apartheid. There are 3 steps to take when crafting a leadership mission statement. But before we look at them, remember, this is a journey. Always remember that you're never done refining your leadership mission, so these steps will repeat. First, we identify what matters in your leadership. Then, we draft a mission statement that's clear, concise, and captivating. And then we continually refine this statement. Your leadership mission statement defines why your leadership matters. To do this, we can use a 3-step formula to craft a great mission statement. Using all of the thoughts about your leadership that you've established through building your leadership brand, use this 3-step formula. First, identify your cause. It's the who, the what, and the where. Circle items as you look at all of your written materials about your branding. Second, it's the what I do. It's my action. Square these items as you look at the content you've developed. And finally, third, my impact. This is your change for the better. Underline these items. Putting all of these 3 elements together, your cause, action, and impact, you should be able to develop a strong, clear, concise mission statement.